Hello and welcome to this lesson on the fine old tune, What Should We Do with the Drunken Sailor? Some people just call it Drunken Sailor, and we are going to play in the E Dorian mode. Now, that sounds a bit scary, but basically we're going to be playing on the D row of this D-G Melodeon. Our home note is E, which on this Melodeon is this note here, which is fourth button down, because it's the fourth button start. If I play the fourth button and pull out, that note is E. E Dorian, the notes in the E Dorian mode are the same as the notes in the D major scale. So if you were to play a D major scale, you'd have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp and D. So you've got two sharps, you've got F sharp and C sharp. Basically, with E Dorian you go from E up to E, but you sharpen the F and the C, so it's exactly the same notes as D major. It feels really like E minor, but saying that we're in E Dorian just takes care of those two sharps, because we've got F sharp and C sharp in this tune, and that's why in the key signature you've got the two sharps. It looks like D major or its relative minor, B minor, but actually it's E Dorian. Don't worry about that. All you've got to think about is that the Fs and the Cs are sharpened, and on this tune, because it's a beginner's piece, I put the names of the notes above the notes anyway, so you shouldn't have any problems. My instrument, like I say, is a fourth button start, so my first note B is D row button 6, which is this note on the pull. If you've got a third button start, it's this button here, button 5. On the first bar, you've got that crotchet, 2 quavers, crotchet, 2 quavers sequence. So you've got 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Now I have seen people using different fingers on the same button if you've got a repeating note, but I don't think it's necessary here. I think just use the third finger like that, and that's absolutely fine. So you count it 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Now the backing, the E minor chord, well, E bass is the second button down inside row. Use finger 2 if you can, and the E minor chord directly above that, finger 1, and you play the E bass note on beats 1 and 3, and on beats 2 and 4 you play the E minor chord. So you play the E minor chord with the first of those two pairs of quavers. So you'll have a B note there without anything behind it, and likewise at the end of the bar. Okay, so that's your first bar done. And then in the next bar, even easier, what you're doing there, you're playing the component parts of an E minor chord on the right hand side. You're playing B, E, G, B. Finger 3, finger 1, finger 2 and back to finger 3, and the E bass and E minor chord just go exactly with those notes. So E bass, E minor chord, E bass, E minor chord. So 2 bars. Okay, very simple, and that is all on the pull. Now on the next stave, it's very easy because it's the same buttons, and the chord that goes with this is D. It's the D chin end, so it's the D bass, which is button 2 outside row, and the D chord, which is button 1 outside row. And you can see that bass line that's written on top there. Capital D, by the way, is the bass note, and the lowercase d is the bass chord. By the way, in the first line, the E, E minor, E, E minor, you can see, well, the capital E is the E bass note, and the E minor, I put a capital letter for the E because I think it looks weird if you put a small E with an E minor. So here on stave 2, bars 3 and 4, you've got this, it's all on the push, pushing the bellows in as you play the notes. And it's exactly the same buttons that you pressed on the first stave. So button 6 for me. Then run up, so the notes are A, 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 D, F sharp, A. And just as we had an E minor chord there, here we've got a D major chord. D, F sharp and A, put those three notes together, gives you a D major chord. Let's play those 4 bars. Nice and simple. On the 3rd stave, it starts the same as the 1st stave. Up to there it's all the same, but this time you put the little finger on the button below to get the C sharp. So it's button 7 on my Melodeon, and then I'm going to go over to the G row. Now I know I'm going to the G row because I put diamond heads on these next 2 notes. Basically in this tune, all of the notes on the D row have got the normal heads, any notes on the G row have got the diamond heads. That's how I help you find your way around the tune. Now I'm going to play push, pull on these 2 buttons here. It's button 6 on mine. Remember it's button 5 for you if you've got a 3rd button start instrument. You push in to get the D and you pull out to get the E. So that bar, so that is B, C sharp, D and E. Now with the B and the C sharp you've got E bass, E minor chord, just as you were doing in the previous bar. Okay, but then you're going to come over to these 2 buttons here on the outside row. You're going to push in to get the D bass and a D chord together and pull out to get an A bass and an A chord together. These aren't the only chords that fit with this, it's just what I've chosen to use. So that gives you so stave 3, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. And that 2nd bar, the bar with B, C sharp, D, E, it's all crotchets, just dead straight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're on the last stave of page 1. A very interesting couple of bars here. What I'm doing here, I'm going. So that's a little bit strange. On the 1st right hand note there, which is a D, I'm pushing in. Okay, and there's no bass with that. Okay, there's no bass that actually fits with that the way I've done it. So you just play that note on its own, pushing in. Comes the button above that, pull out to get the B. At the same time, play the E bass in the E minor chord. Now play the same button and push in. Again, no bass. This is the right hand I'm talking about. It's the note of A, push. And then come to the button above that, also push. This time you play the D bass note and D chord with that. So that gives you. And on the last bar of the page you play the E note twice, 2 minims, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the E bass and the E minor chord together. So that last couple of bars of that page. Let's play that 1st page together. I'll count you with the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Essentially the 2nd page is much the same thing, except that we have a different rhythm. Instead of going, we go. So that is a minim, a dotted crotchet and a quaver. So you count that 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. I went into the next bar so to make it make sense, link the 2 together. So you've got same here, same here, and then you're into the bit you did before. Now the way the bass works with that. Okay, so on the 1st bar of page 2, you're going to play the B right hand note, which is a minim, holds for 2 beats, while you play the E bass in the E minor chord. Then play the E bass again with the dotted crotchet B note. And before you play the final quaver, you'll get that E minor chord in. See how that final B quaver comes just after that second E minor chord. So the timing will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Same here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and then that's the same as before. Where we go over to the G row. So a slightly harder part to play there, I guess, with the dotted crotchet and the quaver. On the very last bar, we've got a very interesting thing we can play. We have the note E, this minim here, and then that's first finger. Bring your first finger up one button onto the note C sharp. You're then going to put your second finger on the E, there where you had your first finger just then, and you're going to put your third finger on the button below that to give you a G. So the notes are C sharp, E and G, and you play that with the E bass and the E minor chord, and the overall effect is an E minor sixth chord. I mean, it sounds really complicated, but it's actually easy to do. And what I tend to do, I kind of do a little eruption on the end of that, which is quite nice to do. Not hard, but it sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it? So your second page, there's a little ornament you can do. It's a bit harder on my instrument because I've got a fourth button start, but I'll show you what happens, then I'll explain it. Now, you can hear what's happening there. We've got a little slur and we're using the accidental. Now, that's the slur that we do on the E minor. What we've got there, we're going from a B flat to a B. This button here on my Melodeon, if you've got all low notes, you won't be able to do this. You can only do this if these top two buttons are giving you accidentals. So if I play button 1 and I pull out, the note that I've got is B flat, which is a semitone below this note, which is a B. Now it's a bit of a stretch on mine. If you've got a third button start, it'll be there to there, it won't be such a big stretch. You may be lucky enough to have a third row or a 0.5 row where on the inside here, so you'll be able to find that note there probably. Obviously it's a lot easier, but this is just the way I'm doing it. So you just go on those first two Bs. It's quite nice to do this on page 2, not on page 1. So we've got the minim, dotted, crotchet, quaver. So you do it before the minim and the dotted crotchet. And that's going to involve doing this. So where you use fingers 1, 2 and 3, this time you'll have to use fingers 2, 3 and 4. And likewise, when you go to the next stave, this button, if you push the bellows in, it gives you an A flat note, which is obviously a semitone below A. So exactly the same movement, just going the other way, pushing instead of pulling. If you do it on the third stave of this, change your finger position once you've finished slurring. So it's a nice little ornament you can do there. If you find that too hard or too much of a stretch, don't worry. This is supposed to be sort of a beginner's piece, but it's good fun to play for anyone, I think. I'll just play it through really slowly for you, and you might want to practice along with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you notice I got a bit of an armful of bellows there. I put the word air button in underneath the F sharp on the last stave of page 1. As you play the F sharp, if you operate the air button as you play it, you can get your bellows closed up in preparation for all those pull notes. See there, get your bellows closed up. The way you do that is you operate the air button as you play the F sharp. You'll have to push a bit harder so you don't lose any volume. It's just enough to get your bellows nicely closed up to start the next bar and the one after that and the one after that, which are all pull. Using the air button, a very important part playing the melodeon. If this is an early lesson for you, you may be struggling with this. Basically, you want to try and avoid having the huge gasps of air in between sections. Use it as you play, and that way it's subtle and your audience won't even notice it once you get to grips with it. It's quite a hard technique to master, but it's one that will come in time. Anyway, good little tune that. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.